Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to see all y'all this morning. Um, just a little reminder, my name is Novi. I'm super excited to be teaching y'all today. Um, Let me think a few announcements. None of we're on our bed or our mat. Just making sure we're feeling comfortable. Once again, I cannot see y'all. So I just want us to make sure that we feel as comfortable as possible as we can in this class. That's what I love about this virtual class. It's just that I really want y'all to feel free to take independence, especially if I'm giving options or even when I'm not giving options. If you want to do something that feels better for your body, please make sure to go ahead and follow through with that. But let me think. This will be a 30-minute class. We will wrap up at 7:15. If I didn't get y'all's name checked in before class, I'll try to walk over there and get y'all checked in. So let's go ahead and begin. We are going to start laying down today. For every class, we do start laying down. So if you ever want to take a nap before class, that is always an option. I like to start with my legs all the way out, but we can walk them in, especially if that lower back feels a little bit tight. Trying to allow ourselves to kind of, once again, be cradled by whatever we're laying down on, let that be our mat, maybe a towel, maybe our bed. We're going to start once again with a full body scan. I usually always start with this, but starting with our toes, feeling free to wiggle them a little bit, noticing any pops, any pains. We're working up towards the ankle, or maybe the back, the soles of the feet. Really noticing what's sore, working our way up to the calf muscle and the shins. Just going through this scan, maybe coming up towards those knees, making sure that we're not in too much pain, maybe thinking of a sore in the morning rather than a sharp or a dull pain. And working our way up from the knees, we get into our thighs and the hamstrings, really taking care of our hamstrings and our thighs. They support so much of our everyday movement, making sure that we're feeling good. We're working up towards the hips. We're feeling a little bit more tight there today. And walking up to the core. Allowing us to hold ourselves steady, to use our balance. Our core helps so much with that. Working up towards the chest, noticing if we're feeling any sort of tightness, or maybe in the back towards the spine. Are we feeling a little bit sore? Our shoulders can roll down and into the mat. Our neck, elongating it so we can press the back of the skull on our mats or our bed, and our gaze goes right perpendicular with the mat. And finally, thinking about what's in our mind today. I want us to really maybe find a goal and try to focus on what we can control throughout our day today. So I myself get very stressed out, which is crazy that I teach yoga and stress relief. But throughout the day, really allowing ourselves to take that pressure off of us when we realize we cannot control something. So, in thinking about this weather, thinking about the reactions of other people, the opinions of other people, knowing that that is not ours to control, we can let go. Thinking about our own reaction, thinking about our own goals. Now, welcoming ourselves into a little bit more breathing, we can take our hands right to the belly if we'd like. As we inhale, the belly button will raise up towards the ceiling. And as we exhale, we welcome both the hands and the belly button back in towards the spine. Inhale, rising up. And exhale, falling back down. I like to think about a balloon in my belly. As we inhale, that balloon inflates. And as we exhale, we feel that balloon deflating, finding that control here. Doing this breathing is really good for just taking that stressed fight or flight back to that parasympathetic nervous system. Let's begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes, rolling out the ankles and the wrists. We're welcoming all the pops and the cracks, knowing they're going to help us throughout our day today. Let's inhale our hands far overhead, reaching nice and long. And now taking out those feet, we're reaching both with the hands and the toes, maybe pointing the toes here. And let's take one more breath, reaching even farther. And we'll take our knees and our hands all the way in. Let's give ourselves a big hug. The neck, tops, and the shoulders stays resting on the mat, rocking from side to side. Now from this hug, taking our feet, pressing them together, we reach our hands towards our shins or our ankles and allowing the knees to fall out to the side. I am not a big fan of happy baby pose, but if you would like to enter into that here, I do recommend. It might feel very good in the morning, depending. But the way we'll transition into that is by taking the bottom of our foot into our hands, allowing this knee to come near the armpits. And we'll do that with the opposite leg as well. But I also like just a nice butterfly stretch here. So let's take two more stretches here, maybe rolling out the ankles again. I personally cannot do that enough in the morning. Let's bring, whether we're in our happy baby pose or just our butterfly stretch, let's bring it back, knees together, giving ourselves one more big hug. And I want us to allow our knees to float in a relaxed position. Let's take our hands down to the side, starting to rock back and forth, but instead of finding a lateral, just back and forth in straight line, I want us to start to focus on forming this U shape with the knees. We can walk our hands out to the side even more. And we're introducing our obliques this morning to this core movement. It's rocking from side to side. Trying to keep our shoulders down, our hips stay down for the most part. And let's find center after 2 more breaths. Meeting me back in the center of our mat. We take our feet, we flex them, the toes raise up towards the ceiling. We press them down into the mat to where we want to see if our knees go directly over our ankles. We are at a hip's distance apart. The head, neck, tops, and shoulders are all the way down. And then let's press our hands as well into the mat. We roll the shoulders into the mat even more. And I want us to focus a little bit on our pelvic tilt. So seeing if this pelvic mobility feels good in the morning. If not, it is something where we just find a neutral spine, which means we have a little bit of space where the lumbar spine curves. So right here, it might curve just a little bit, but if we want to find our pelvic tilts, feeling free to take our hands to these bony landmarks of the hips, and we allow the hips to come and face up towards us. So we roll that tailbone away from the mat. And then pressing into the mat this time, the belly button might reach up so that the hips can angle now towards the thighs. And then we'll find once again where the tailbone reaches away from the mat. And maybe finding the lumbar spine reaching up towards the ceiling once again. And let's find that neutral spine. We are going to enter into some bridges here. So if we like, for me, they get a little bit easier if I find that posterior pelvic tilt. So that's where we lift that tailbone away from the mat. We can also do this in a neutral spine. You can experiment with this as well, but allowing our our heels to find that pressure. We build ourselves all the way up into our full bridge. And now taking our hands from underneath us, holding them together, we open up the chest as well. Let's build some strength here. Let's take 2 more breaths. Beautiful, unwinding the fingertips. Now inhaling, we bring the hands up towards the ceiling. And exhale, starting with the top of our spine first, we roll down all the way back to the start. Let's bring out the hands to the side. We rock the knees from side to side, really finding that spinal twist here, finding a little bit more movement. And a beautiful job. We're going to work our way up to a seated position. We can turn onto our sides and go ahead and press ourselves on up. And facing forward on our mats, let's come into a crisscross position, but I'm going to turn and face y'all for that crisscross position. Once again, let's bring our hands all the way up. We circle up towards the ceiling, bringing them together, like intertwine. Inhaling here. Exhale, we bring our hands all the way back down. And now reaching out in front of us, we'll take our hands, allowing them to still intertwine, but we'll invert the palms to face the camera. And I want us to round the spine right into this cat position. We open up once again, reaching the chest open, kind of like we did for those bridges. We can bring the hands up, inhaling here. They wrap behind us. Once again, pressing the chest open. And flowing right back into that cat, we send the shoulder blades apart from each other as we reach forward and reach back. I want us to start flowing with our breath. So as we inhale, we find this open chest position. Exhale, we move into that cat where we curve the spine. We can stay around the shoulder blades if we'd like, but allowing the rest of the spine to really move with us here. Beautiful. And so I am going to recommend that now we all turn to work on the horizontal side of our mat. And then we're going to focus on some hip mobility. So first, taking our right shin and then moving it in front of us. So we can take this parallel with the mat if we'd like, and then taking our left knee and connecting it towards that ankle. And so if we feel any pain with this position, I want us to move back into our crisscross um, applesauce position, but we can always move in position. This doesn't have to be a perfect right angle by any means. So let's start off with some lateral stretching. Let's bring the hands out to the side. We lower to the right side where we have our bent knee, making sure this hip stays down. We reach into this lateral stretch and let's twist towards our mat. Maybe walking out the hands a little bit more. Inhale, we reach open. And we'll take this about 2 more times. So we inhale, finding first this side bend before we twist, really raising our ribs up towards the ceiling or the sky. If you're outside right now, that is very cool. But then walking our hands forward, we find as deep as this twist as we would like to go. You by no means have to be finding anything that low. And we'll do one more. We open up, inhale, we transition. And then once again, finding that lateral bend, reaching down for our mat, and maybe walking out a little farther. Opening back up. And we come back up to the top. Wonderful. We are now going to allow our hip mobility to really come into focus. Our trunk should feel nice and loose, but with that, we want to stabilize the upper body here. So holding our hands together, I want us to go ahead and begin to rock maybe backwards so that we can switch sides, or we can manually take our hands and help our legs to move into the Z sit on the other side. So our left shin is now going to be in front, and that right knee is going to be connecting to the foot or not. But we want to find our left shin pointing out towards the end or the edge of our mat. So let's come back into that lateral bend here, but we'll go towards that other side. And then twist. Walking out the hands once again. And unwinding. Once again, we take this about 2 more times. Beautiful. And then same thing here. We are going to focus finally on the hip mobility. So I want us to either switch sides, allowing our hands to help us, or we can go without our hands. Maybe we can work our way here, but focusing on trying to switch from a left Z sit into a right Z sit. And we'll maybe do this 3 more times, allowing just a little bit of a massage on the glutes as we switch sides. I'm leaning back to be able to do this. I'm not staying really upright over the hips. I allow a little bit more space by taking my shoulders back. And let's do one more. Beautiful job. Allowing both knees to bend. We are going to allow ourselves to come into all fours. And then right from all fours, we are going to allow ourselves to move into our child's pose. I'm going to recommend that our knees stay in parallel for right now, but let's send the hips back behind us. If this does not feel very well to us today, we can come up to our puppy pose, which is where the hips stay right over the knees. And so finding our favorite one, and let's wiggle our fingers. We walk the fingers over towards the left side of our mat. We find that side bend once again. And then walking over towards the right side of our mat. Beautiful. We're gonna find just a little bit more mobility here, but y'all have done these before. And so we reach the chest forward. If we're in our puppy pose, we come up into that all fours position. And I'm going to step back with my knees because if I reach any farther forward, I'll hit my head. But we want to be able to come into a knee plank. So we have a straight line from the knees to the head, and we'll begin to lower our elbows until we come all the way down onto our mat. Inhale, beginning to lift the top of the chest up, choosing our favorite between a baby cobra or setting our elbows down for a sphinx pose. And then finally, our last option is to build up to that full cobra. And from wherever we are, we start to maybe come down a little bit from our full cobra, but bending the knees, we take it back to the puppy or the child's pose. And we reach forward, coming back to that knee plank position so that we can reach all the way down. Finding our favorite type of cobra. I think our Sphinx pose feels the most stretchy in the mornings, but to each their own, all of our bodies are going to be a little bit different. And then reaching back. Let's do this 2 more times. I'm going to go ahead and be silent, allowing y'all to work through this at your own pace. And if we're done with those last two, meeting me back in our child's pose or our puppy pose. And now allowing the hips to raise up, we press the toes into the mat and then straighten the legs so that we can reach into our downward dog. And so here, starting to walk, one knee bent and then the opposite knee bent. We really want to get the back of those legs reaching the tailbone up even higher once again. And then pausing both knees from being bent. Let's take our right knee and we are going to bend this knee underneath the body. For me, I have a little bit more going on in my chest. So I like to come into a cat pose. So I take the shoulder blades away to create more space for my knee to press from that position. We are going to take both hands to the inside of that foot. And so our back leg can relax. We can scoot it back just a little bit more. We come into this lizard pose here. This is one of my favorites. Let's take 2 breaths here. We want to feel this stretch right on the inside of the left leg, but we also could feel it in this right glute. And from here, we can lift a little bit higher if we would like. Our back left knee is going to come down onto our mat. We send the hips just slightly behind us so that the front leg can straighten. We find this back of the leg stretch now. And I'm pointing and flexing my foot to find just a little bit more mobility and strength. I wanted to find a class with a little bit more movement today for y'all because I know I have been really static in our stretching for the past few classes, but oh, it has been really fun with my health lately. I've gotten to know so many people in the medical industry. But taking our back toes, we flip them, and then our opposite leg can come back there and meet the other. We'll come into our downward dog, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So now bending that left knee, I'm going to walk forward so y'all can see me just a little bit better. But bending that left knee, taking it up, and then once again, maybe finding a little bit more room for it by taking the spine up, wrapping both hands on the inside of the leg, and we scoot those toes back behind us. And let's hold 2 breaths in this lizard pose. And now, when we're ready, raising up just a little bit so there's maybe less tension in our hip flexors, we'll lower that back knee down and elongate the front, or excuse me, the back of the leg. Pointing and flexing if we would like. And we're going to get into a seated position after this. We can be facing the camera. We'll just be taking our last few breaths together. And so the way we're going to transition to that is by taking our knee and we're going to switch and bend to the side. And so taking those knees just out from under us, crisscrossing here. Meeting me in a seated position. Let's raise our hands up towards the sky or ceiling. Finding some gratitude between the palms today. Exhale, we bring it down to the heart. And let's do one more breath maybe finding an intention this time instead of gratitude, setting that goal. Also taking it down to the heart. Thank y'all so much for coming to class today. It is officially 7:15. Um, Once again, I am in Katy right now, and I know that um, we might have anyone with family out and about. So make sure to please stay safe in this tropical storm. Turn around, don't drown. We've all heard that before. Phil, I will get you checked in real quick, but I recognize all of y'all here. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and continue to focus on what you can control and not what you can't.